Adam said, I am a reporter at the Simcoe Reformer Delhi News Record.
This is my guest, Bernie. Thanks for joining me, Bernie.
Hey, thank you for bringing me.
No problem. So, as many people may know, you are the owner-operator of the nonprofit bookstore outside of Delhi, Cortland area?
Yes, I don't actually own it.
Operator?
We rent the store and people donate the books, so we don't even own those. So.
Fair enough. To start off, I'd like to maybe do a little introduction, talk about how you got into a bookstore, because this is something that you started after your retirement, is that correct?
It was some years before I retired, actually.
A couple years?
Well, it started basically in 1985. I had come to this area from England. I grew up in England, became a Latin teacher. Oh, somewhere along the road I had taught in England and Australia, and then we came back to England, and then we came here to Norfolk, and I thought this is where we stay. And we have stayed more or less ever since.
What did you enjoy so much about Norfolk?
Oh, it's just a beautiful place to live. And we had snow in those days. We had 3 children, and the winters were good. And the kids were very nice kids to teach.
Okay.
So it was very good as a school teacher.
Okay.
But in 1985, my wife went down to Mississippi for the summer and I had nothing to do.
What was she doing in Mississippi?
A master's in education. I went the second year, but not the first. And I didn't know what to do, but the Ontario Teachers Federation, their union, had the brilliant idea of sending our school teachers from Ontario into the third world in the summer holidays to teach the teachers in places like Cuba, Guyana, and Haiti, and India, and Africa. And they were looking for volunteers, and they wanted someone who spoke French, which I did, to go down to Haiti. So I said, okay, why not? And so I went down to Haiti for 5 weeks that summer, down to Port-au-Prince, the capital, then down to Gonaïves, which was the second major city, and we taught 3 groups of teachers there during the summer. And we learned far more than we ever taught.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, we learned what it's like to live and die in the third world. I had never seen such poverty, and it really bothered me. I had never before seen people dying on the streets.
Literally dying?
Literally dying on the streets. There were little kids with big bellies from eating dirt. There were kids with red hair. These are all black. Their hair should be black. And the hair was red because they had various vitamin deficiencies and they were going to die. There was a leper colony in the town, and we went and visited and hugged them all and shook hands. And then I said to the doctor, I said, is this contagious? He says, oh, no, no. In any case, you know, the incubation time is 7 years, and you'll be all right. So, so that was good.
And so what were you teaching the teachers there? Just about teaching in general, or?
Well, it was sort of whatever you want, really. They called it general knowledge. Okay. So I took a globe of the world, and I took maps, and I put the maps out. I remember one day, and I said, okay, put your finger on China. And they looked at me, and I looked at them, and I said, you know, finger, put it on China. And they looked at me, and they looked at each other, and I was getting a little bit annoyed, so I said, put your bloody finger on China. And they were really scared by then, because I was thumping up and down, and suddenly it occurred to me, They didn't know what China was. They didn't know what was land and what was sea. They didn't know north from south. And after the lesson, one or two of them came up and said, "Do you think I could have a map of the world like that for myself?" And I said, "You've never had one, have you?" I said, "No."
No.
And these were the teachers who were teaching the other people. They had never actually had a map of the world in their hands.
And that was the first trip that you took to Haiti, right?
That was the first one, and it determined me to try and do something.
What was it about the country that drove that need?
Well, it was the poverty, but apart from that, they were such lovely people. I could go anywhere up and down that town, and I stood out like a sore thumb being a white person. Mm-hmm. And they were very nice, and they looked after me. And I felt most perfectly safe, and they all smiled and were happy. Mm-hmm. Even the ones who had nothing, and there were so many of those. You know, when I grew up in the north of England, we were very poor, and you know, at the age of 7 and 8, I couldn't afford a full packet of cigarettes, but I could afford 5. And
sorry, 7 or 8? You couldn't afford your cigarettes?
I gave up when I was 7, really.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, I could buy a packet of 5 Woodbines, and they were really very cheap, for my father, of course.
Yeah.
But there, they sold their cigarettes. One woman bought them in packets of 20, 30, but she would sell them 1 cigarette, 1 match, 1 person. And those who could not afford to buy more could afford perhaps 1 cigarette. This was just as poor as you can get.
And so when did you return back to Haiti for your second trip?
Well, I had determined to set up the bookstore, and I got started on that. And then the priest that organized the trip to Gonaïves had moved up into the northeast to for Liberté, and he had got a request from the bishop to start a teacher's training college. So he was getting this underway, and in 1993, when I went, they had just built the platform on which they put the school because of the flooding. Mm. And we taught a group of teachers there, and I taught French and English to these teachers. So I got to know the teachers. And one of the teachers that I taught is now principal at one of the schools that we have just built.
Really?
So it's sort of coming full circle. In 1996, I took 2 of my volunteers, Larry Cowan.
From the bookstore.
From the bookstore, Larry Cowan, who is the greatest help a fellow can have. He just came in one day and said, "Do you want a hand here? Can I help?" And he's been there ever since. Must be getting on over 15 years at least. The other was Robert Carpridge, who's a photographer and also a volunteer, as is his family. And we went down there for a couple of weeks, and we opened the library at the Teachers Training College. And we'd done quite a lot for that school. We'd built a kitchen, 2 kitchens, 1 caught fire, and a toilet block, 2 in fact, 1 fell in, and a soccer pitch and a baseball pitch, and the school textbooks, which cost $30 each and had to come from Paris, and he wanted 100, so there's $3,000 just on textbooks.
And can you explain maybe a little bit how the bookstore works here? Or actually, can we step 1 step backwards and go to how you came up with this idea of a bookstore? Did your wife think you were crazy?
Yes, she did. Always has done.
Yeah, always.
But no, when 85, I went down to Haiti. 87, I finally got into motion, opened up one room in a house in Delhi on rather a quiet street and said, okay guys, give me books and I'll sell them and we'll make a profit. We'll do it better perhaps than some of the thrift stores do, because I know a lot more about books. I was a librarian as well. And it didn't work. So I finally found a deserted and abandoned motel on the highway. It had just changed hands, so I went to see the owner and I said, what are you going to do with that motel? And they said, oh, we'll probably bulldoze it down. It's not good for anything. So I said, oh, tell you what, give it me. I will resurrect it, I'll make it into a bookstore. If and when we ever make a profit, I'll give you half. And they were a lovely couple, and they said, yeah, sure, go ahead.
They agreed.
They agreed, absolutely. They were just generous, nice people. So I worked on it for the next 5 years. It took 5 years to make a profit. And I went to my wife in trepidation and said, I kind of like to start a bookstore. And she looked at me in that look that wives have. I don't know where they get it. Anyway, and she said, well, how much would it cost? I said, probably about 10,000. So she said the wonderful words. She said, would it make you happy? I said, oh, yes. And so we went ahead. And over the next 4 years, I turned it into the bookstore that it is.
And how do you get these books that you sell in the bookstore? Through donations?
They are, for the most part, they are donated. This is a very generous community. The older people usually have a library. If not that, they have a lot of books. And they donate them. I can go there in the morning and sometimes there's 4 or 5 boxes of books that people have just left there. Sometimes there's over 30. And they take a lot of, massaging to get them onto the shelves. But we have a very generous community and they like to see that their books are reused and some good comes of it. They know that there is poverty in Haiti, that people are actually dying of hunger, that the average income per person is about $2 a day.
Which would get you that coffee there, basically.
Yes. Coffee a day will keep one person. They will work for $3. A day's wage is $3 in Haiti. My teachers, I'm just bothering with teachers now. He can't pay his teachers for October. So I said, well, how much is it? Well, in the elementary school, he has 8 teachers, and the salary for 1 month for 8 teachers is $650.
And he can't pay that.
He can't pay them. It's about, what, $75 each. In the secondary division, he has 18 teachers, and he owes them $1,600, so it's, again, it's less than $100 a month.
And so
for
you're
a
going to
school
get
teacher.
These salaries through your bookstore and send them off, hopefully?
We have been spending the money for the last 5 years on actually building the fabric.
Okay.
We spent $7,000 on the land, which is enough to build a school on. And then the platform goes 1 meter high, then the block walls, and I think they're 6-inch block, which is, not to my taste. And I thought, well, he's going to go 2 stories high because he doesn't have much land. In actual fact, he went 3. And then they found they didn't have any water, so he's getting water from the roof, but there's not enough. And so on. And then he found that there were buildings on either side, and they cut the light from his windows. He doesn't actually have glass in the windows, it's block with holes in. So he had to have a generator and lights, and so it goes on like this. And then he wants doors. And the other school that we built, or we helped to build, functioned for a year without any classroom doors. And they open up onto the outside, so the wind and the rain came in and the dogs got in at night. And so we've been doing that. So it's all fairly essential stuff.
Mm-hmm. And you support 2 schools, is that right?
Yes.
2 schools.
Yeah, they're both the normal type of school. They go through from about age 5 to about age 22, 23. It takes a long time because they have the baccalaureate from the state. It's generally a French exam in French, run by the state. And they don't have electricity, so homework is a problem. They don't have television, they don't have computers, and they don't have a proper library. So all these things that we take for granted that speed up our education, they don't have. So it just takes years longer.
And you've witnessed this all firsthand. How many times have you been to Haiti?
We've been 4.
4 times?
Yes, Pat, my wife and I went down in 1999.
That was the last time that you were there?
That was the last time, because now we have internet. They can say, I'd like this money to pay my teachers. I can go back the same day and say, sorry, we don't have it. And they can come back and say, well, I've got a meeting with the teachers this afternoon at 4 o'clock, and I'm going to ask them to wait. How long do you think it'll be? And then I can go back, and we can get, 3 or 4 messages the same day, which is so convenient. Mm-hmm. And it's expensive to go there. There is one hotel, or there was, run by a French couple from France, which is very comfortable. And you follow the usual thing in third world countries. You drink the beer, or you drink hot tea. You eat nothing that hasn't been cooked.
And that was your experience at this hotel?
And it works. We never got sick.
That's a good thing.
So it is really very lucky.
Do you have a favorite memory of your time in Haiti at all?
It was all good. Mm-hmm. It's a lovely country, they're lovely people. It's friendly. I mean, I went to Mass in the cathedral there. The Mass goes on for 2.5 hours. Mm. And it was mentioned in the cathedral that I was there and what I was doing and what I had done. And everybody turned around to have a look at me, and I just sort of waved. And from that time on, everybody in the town knew me. And I'd walk around with, I had $2,000 or $3,000 in my pocket, and I went into little alleyways and dark places, absolutely safe.
Interesting.
And it was a very, very good experience.
Okay. And what keeps you doing this bookstore? It must be a lot of work to go and find the books, put them on the shelves, make funds, send them to Haiti. And you're retired.
Well, I didn't retire. I moved into a different occupation. I have a, pretty good pension from the teachers, so I don't need any more money. Mm-hmm. But I do need an occupation. I do seem to have a fair amount of energy yet. And I like books, and I like bookstores, and I like people who like books, and the people who come in are interesting, educated, talkative people because they know such a lot. And I learn such a lot from the customers. Mm-hmm. And I learn a lot from the other bookstores. And so far, we have made enough money that it has been worthwhile. Basically, we can earn, when we, all set up and dried, we can send off something in the nature of $25,000 to $30,000 a year, which over there is a fantastically large amount of money. And it does a huge amount of good. There have been days when, they have typed in, they've said, the kids are not at school today because they're too hungry. The parents won't send them because they're too tired. So I can say, okay, $1,000 on the way, get some food from somewhere, make a noon meal, and they have done that. And the kids go to school and they have a meal, and they last a little bit through the afternoon, and when they're too tired, they send them home. But, they have come to associate school and food. And that's good. It's very satisfying to know that a little bit of money can do a great deal of good. And we have put libraries into both schools. At one time I sent, about 100 boxes of books a year, which was costing in the mailing about $6,000 a year. But the books are well received, and they're looked after, and they stay in the school, and they go through, reader after reader after reader. So that's very happy too.
Do you have any plans of stopping this bookstore, or are you planning to continue as long as possible?
I shall probably die there.
I
shall carry a book that's a little bit too heavy, drop on the floor or something like that. But I don't know. I can't see any reason why I would stop as long as I can manage it. I have wonderful, wonderful volunteers who help me. My wife and I do Sunday afternoons, but for each of the other days in the week there is a volunteer. If ever I need a help, Larry will give me a hand. He comes to book sales with me, and we'll be together at a book sale on Saturday. I was at the one in Tilsonburg today. It was Guelph last week. Next week it will be Woodstock. It's kind of fun.
You enjoy it yourself?
Absolutely.
And you have some hobbies as well. You've taken up painting in the past couple of years as well?
I have been painting the old tobacco kilns of Norfolk, which for the most part are now gone. So there are sort of historic paintings of things which no longer exist. They're not good paintings, but they have a little nostalgia, and I like doing it.
And you and your wife travel a lot as well. And
yes.
I hear that you won't go on a trip unless you're learning something, doing something educational.
We like to do trips that actually take us and teach us something. There are the Rhodes Scholar, ROADS. They run trips and they give you lectures along the way and tell you what it's all about and the history and the geography of the place, and you hit the highlights. And when you've had supper in the evening, you don't go to bed and drink, you listen to a lecture. And we like that.
Would you consider yourself a lifelong learner then?
Oh, absolutely. Who isn't? You can't know everything, and when you get to my age, it's all seeping out the bottom. You've got to put it in the top as well, or else you get empty. So, yeah.
Would you change anything about your career, either teaching or now with the bookstore?
I have been just the luckiest person. I've had a lovely wife, I got a great, great family, lovely job, and, no, everything is pretty perfect. Don't want to leave.
Perfect. Well, I think I'll end it there and open it up to any questions from the audience, if there are any. Yes?
We all saw the effect of the devastating earthquake that hit Haiti. Could you tell us how it affected your work, please?
Yes, our town is maybe 300 miles away from Port-au-Prince, where the earthquake was. Now, unhappily, it was a Friday afternoon and the bureaucracy was at work, and between the floors in the buildings, they had 5 inches of concrete ceiling floor, and all that came down. So the Department of Education just sort of vanished and all the people in it. So there were no checks coming out of there. Same happened at the post office. So there were no checks for the post office. And that was some time ago, but the post office is still not working well. The latest change is that if I send a parcel, I pay for it. When it arrives there, the person at the other end that I'm sending it to pays $5 American and receives the parcel. So the mailman at the other end in the post office gets the $5, and that's his salary for, you know, as many parcels as he has. So they're working without a central office in the capital. In our small town, the people that were related to the people in the town made their way that 300 kilometers and arrived in town, and there they are with the children. And we also had about 100 orphans who arrived somehow and were taken in by the people in the town, but they had no money for education, no uniforms, no backpacks. So we were able to help. And we sent enough money to get them into school. Otherwise, it didn't affect us at all very much.
Anyone else have any questions? Yes?
How many volunteers do you have at the bookstore? And do they volunteer for Haiti or for books?
I hope they volunteer for Haiti. They stay for books. And I think they stay because the bookstore is a very happy place. It's nice to have cheerful people coming in, that they're talkative, and they've all got little oddities, which makes them interesting. They all know things that ordinary people don't know because they read into corners and that sort of thing. And they like the chit-chat with the customers, as do we all. And I think they have been for years. The average age is probably about 80. And it keeps us young, it keeps us alive, it gives us an interest, and it gives us something useful to do. They know about Haiti because I tell them all the time what wonderful things we're doing. They see the photographs. I can get photographs on the email. Those on the pictures at the back are our 2 schools, which we have built, and they're looking pretty good. They look even better when they get a little bit of stucco on and a little bit of paint and, you know, doors and windows. And if they can get a hydro in, that will be a very big day. And if we could even get some internet into the school, a little bit of Wi-Fi, that would open up the whole world to them. And I really like, you know, $50,000 to get internet into those 2 schools.
And how many volunteers do you have at the bookstore?
At the bookstore, sorry, I forgot the question. I do apologize. Obviously, we have 7 lots for 7 days in the week, and we have another 5 or 6 that I can call upon. These are very good people. We've had 2 retired ministers of the church, 1 retired doctor. We have 1 present manager of a wood mill. We have a very famous author from Simcoe. And then there's Larry, who is just a wonderful guy. You know, myself, my wife, we're, you know, the odd teachers.
Any other questions? No? Well, thank you so much for joining me, Bernie.
And I thank you.
Thank you very much.